information on your taxes there, but right now we're going to talk about not overtaxing your garden with too much water. This is Justin Rohner with Agriscaping Technologies. Good to have you back on the show.
Great to be back. Love to be here.
I love what you did. Okay, we're going to do something a little different today. We're not just talking about the plants. We got a visual here. Justin actually drew this to show us, you know, the depth of water, because it's a little bit hard for people to understand it if they can't actually see a visual. So good job on that.
Well, thanks. This is my Bob Ross moment, you know.
Yes,
you're
channeling Bob Ross.
Got my little happy trees, my happy plants, the happy grass, and the, you know, barren desert dirt, you know, we got going.
Well, I think because when it's winter and there's a lot more moisture in the air, people get the misconception that you don't have to really water as much because it's going to be cooler. It's going to get wet anyway.
Yep, and then they're cuddling up by the fire, and that's what they want to do, but it's this cold, wet mess out in the garden, and it's like, okay, what do we do? How do we water our garden in the wintertime?
Yeah, and not, you know, mess it up by over-watering.
Yeah, because it's really easy to overwater in the wintertime, and so we're going to talk about that. You know, it's all about depth. It's not about time. That's the number one question I get about watering is, well, how long do I water my trees? I said, I don't know your system, I don't know your soil, but I do know what the plant needs, and it needs deep water, and it's a different type of deep water for each thing. So like for our tree here, we know that in order to really get this thing watered right, in our crazy clay soil, our soil kind of has these veins of clay that go across, and this is what happens normally in Arizona. And when you water with those little drippers here, what will happen is that water kind of goes laterally across that soil line. And so people think, well, I watered it for an hour. Okay, so it's not going deep down, it's going to the side. That's right, and so whatever your watering system is, what we want to do is we want to figure out how deep it's actually going, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually then do a little test and see that we get down. We want to get down to a 3-foot level when we're watering our fruit trees or any other type of trees that we got. We want to make sure it gets all the way down to the bottom of that 3-foot level. And how we test that is kind of some of these tools that I've got here in the front that we'll talk about in just a second. So 3 foot down for your trees, you want about 2 feet down for your bushes. Okay, and usually bushes are on the side of the house and stuff. Yeah, usually side of the house, or they're in an understory of the canopy of the tree. Okay. We got the grass layer. That just needs to get about 6 to 8 inches down, so 6 to 8 inches. Okay. And that's all they need to do. And then your vegetable plants, we want to get 12 to 18 inches down. Oh, wow, okay. And that's kind of the depth we want to go. And so there's some simple tools that I have, I think everybody should have on hand. I mean, a measuring tape is probably a good thing if you're wanting to measure depth. And you know, this is a nice heavy-duty one. Did you have to have like a really heavy-duty one like this, or could you use the basic old school? It could be a basic old school thing. You could even go to a store and just get a yardstick. It goes down exactly 3 feet, so that's all you need. And so this little handy tool, this is what we use to weed in our garden and stuff, but it's got at least a 6-inch length on it. And I want to make sure I got one with the 6-inch length, so I can test the depth that my water has gone in my grass, if I've got grass. And all it is that once you've watered it the time that you normally water it, you basically just stick this in there and let it go down, and as it sinks down in there, it's going to sink easily with a little bit of pressure down to the point at where the water has stopped. And if it isn't going very far, you know that you haven't gotten the water down as far as it needs to be. Exactly. So if I do the normal watering, and let's say that it's been raining a bunch, and so I go out there and it's like, well, does my grass even need water? And I'm going to test it, and if it goes down to 6 inches real easy, don't touch it. Don't water it. Don't do anything. Because then if you do too much, they're going to destroy your grass. Yeah, especially in the cold weather. It's like plants don't grow very fast, and so they're not using a lot of that water. And so if it sits at the roots too long, it starts rotting the roots and killing the plant. And they'll think that it's dying because it doesn't have enough water. But the reality is it's got too much, roots are rotting, can't soak anything up, and it just starts to shrivel and look funny. Now what about these? These are like small little plants right here. So are these a little bit different when it comes to watering? Can you just do I always just touch it on the top, and if it feels dry, I'm going to give it a little water. Is that not good? Well, what I want to do with the smaller plants is I'm looking for the top inch being dry. You know, if the top inch is dry, then that's the next time I'm going to water. Okay. If it's just dry at the very top, I'm not as concerned about that. But if I put my finger in, it's like I just go down to a digit. That's usually about an inch. And if it's wet down at that point, then I'm like, okay. But if it's wet, if it's still dry down to that point, I'm like, okay, time to water it. And when I water it, I want to go 12 to 18 inches for these guys. Okay, that's good to know, because a lot of times you just, you know, look at it and you'll say, oh, they look kind of healthy, but at least if you have a measuring point, you'll know, and then you're giving your plant exactly what it needs. Now the tricky part in measuring deeper is that you got to make sure you got, this is the thing that I use the most in my garden, so this is just, I look like I'm from Downton Abbey or something like that, you know, so I'm walking around with my little walking cane, but I use that to then push this down into the ground to then see what my depth is, and then I shift my water. So if I'm only half as deep as I need, I double my watering time to get it down to the depth that I'm looking for. And everybody's soil's different. That's why we talk about depth. not time, because everyone's soil is different.
Very good information. I wanted people to know exactly what you have coming up, and if they want to get more help in their garden, you have a couple of classes, so tell us about that real quick.
That's right. If you're into growing fruit trees, we got a bare root fruit tree class hands-on this Saturday. You can find it online at agriscaping.com. Click on that news page. You'll be able to sign up for that. And then there's also a class coming up next week online, a class all about the 7 steps to homestead planning on any size property. So if you want to be sustainable on your property, come to that class next week.
Agriscaping Technologies, he's the man. He'll get you that green thumb sooner or later. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be talking entertainment news.